Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday, August 22nd, 5:26 a.m. Central Time. Grain markets are mixed this morning. December corn futures up a quarter cent at 398.5. November soybeans down 5 3/4 at 975 3/4. December Chicago wheat up 1 3/4 at 545 3/4. December Kansas City wheat up 1 1/4 at 553. December spring wheat down a half at 596.5. Let's again start off with the crop tour.
ProFarmer found excellent crop potential in Illinois yesterday. The state's corn yield was pegged at a tour record of 204.2 bushels per acre, up sharply from last year's 193.7 bushels per acre. USDA most recently estimated the Illinois corn yield at 225 bushels per acre compared to last year's 206 bushels per acre. Soybean pod counts in the state were the highest in recent memory at 1,419 per 3x3 plot, up 12% from last year. USDA projects that the state's soybean yield will rise 5% to a record 66 bushels per acre.
ProFarmer and their tour largely confirming the idea that crops in Illinois are excellent. You could make the argument, I suppose, that the year-over-year increase in corn is 11 bushels, according to the tour, and USDA says it's going to be 19 bushels. I'm not going to split hairs here. I'm just going to say that ProFarmer found excellent crop potential in Illinois, and that was largely expected. This is no surprise. The markets this week, aside from Monday, I don't even know if Monday's little rally had anything to do with the tour, but the markets have not really reacted to this very much. We've been very quiet so far this week. Let's get to Iowa.
Corn yield potential was very strong in districts 4 and 7, which represent West Central and Southwest Iowa, respectively. District 1, which represents the northwest corner of the state, saw reduced yield potential compared to last year as a result of excessive early season rainfall. Soybeans were a similar story. Strong potential was found in the west central and southwest portions of the state, but was reduced versus last year in the northwest. USDA projects Iowa's corn yield at a record 209 bushels per acre, and the agency is projecting the state's soybean yield at 61 bushels per acre.
There's a lot of different slides here that ProFarmer made available. I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but the tour, again, as with Illinois, largely confirmed, I believe, what we already knew. And what we already knew was that northern Iowa was going to have some problem spots because of the excessive rains early in the season, and yields are probably going to suffer as a result. So we saw that reported in District 1, and I believe this is the district map that they use. This is the land rent district map from Iowa. I think this is how they do it. If I'm wrong, let me know. But Northwest Iowa, problematic, and then District 4 and 7, which would be, West Central and Southwest, were very good. Today, when they continue here, let's see, what's the map look like for today? So they're going to be in the, central part and then eastern part of Iowa. I think in those, say, north central parts, they'll probably find some wet problems, some issues associated with excessive rainfall early in the season. Same thing with southern Minnesota. I think some of the worst stuff, as a matter of fact, that they could find on the tour, maybe in some pockets of southern Minnesota that were excessively wet, and they'll be there today. So we'll have findings from those areas tomorrow morning.
A Canadian rail shutdown began last night. At midnight, Canadian National Railway and Canadian Pacific Kansas City locked out 9,300 workers after failing to reach a deal with the Teamsters Union. Negotiations had recently stalled amid schedule conflicts and wage disputes, among other items. BBC reports that Canada sends 75% of all exported goods to the U.S. by rail, including grains and fertilizer. Amid the lockout, the rail networks in the U.S. and Mexico will continue to operate, although the halt to traffic in Canada may ripple throughout the system.
I read yesterday, Bloomberg had a piece suggesting that wheat futures sold off on the rail strike. I don't know if I buy that headline necessarily. The issue here as it relates to U.S. and maybe you guys in particular would be fertilizer. This is an old graphic from USDA from back in the COVID supply chain crisis timeframe, and indicates where our fertilizer comes from. Canada is the top exporter of potassium to the United States, accounting for about 30%. So that would be the one item that could potentially be at risk here if this thing were prolonged. A lot of times these things are not prolonged, but who knows? I mean, this could last a week, could it last a month? I don't know, but I think that very near term, that would be the item, imports of fertilizer and potassium in particular, if this thing were to continue.
So if you guys have not checked out our premium content, you sure need to do so. Joe, can you tell me about yesterday's premium video with Matt Bennett?
Unpriced old crop corn bushels and soybean bushels. I know you guys have got them. I know some of you do. I've seen all the surveys. I've seen the grain stocks report. Maybe they're on the farm. Maybe they're at your commercial facility and you're paying storage or whatever. But Matt Bennett was on and we discussed essentially three options objectively. What are your options when it comes to this? And Matt kind of provided his opinion, and I actually kind of put him on the spot and said, Matt, if you were in this situation, what exactly would you do? We talked about the pros and cons of all three options. The bottom line is there's no good way out of this. We can't fix bad prices, but there are some things that are probably better than others with regard to your alternative and your options. This is what I would call hardcore grain marketing information. Is it super entertaining or fun to watch? No, but this is why we do what we do is for grain marketing, education, and that sort of thing. If you guys want to see the premium stuff, go to standardgrain.com. You can sign up this morning. It's a $50 per month subscription. Cancel at any time. No other fee, no other obligation. Nobody will try to sell you anything else. Sign up this morning. I will forward you a copy of this morning's email, which includes that video along with our 6 most recent premium videos, all of my cash grain marketing recommendations. Check that deal out this morning, guys.
Corn acres in Argentina are expected to decline. According to the Buenos Aires Grains Exchange, corn acres during the upcoming season are slated to decline by 17% compared to the current season. The decline is due to concerns over leafhoppers damaging the crop. The insect, which spreads stunt disease, has already caused the exchange to lower its estimate for this season's corn crop by 10 million metric tons. The exchange also expects farmers to plant fewer corn acres because of dry conditions and poor corn prices.
Acreage will be down. USDA is projecting that it'll be down. The groups in Argentina are projecting an even larger decline. With regard to production, USDA says Argentina is actually going to be a little bit higher, and USDA is projecting record combined Brazil and Argentina corn crops. And that's because they do the same thing there that they do here. They start off with like trend line yield expectations, right? So they'll have reduced acreage in Argentina, but the weather, of course, will determine the yields. And that's what will be your big needle mover when it comes to production. So for the moment, yeah, monster crop projections, but of course you need weather to cooperate for that to happen.
U.S. ethanol production increased last week. Weekly output of 1.1 million barrels per day was up 2.4% on the week and up 2.7% versus the same week last year. Ethanol stocks were pegged at 23.6 million barrels. The print was up 1% compared to the previous week and also up 1% compared to the same week last year. Implied gasoline demand was up 1.6% compared to the previous week and up 3.9% versus the same week last year. On average, over the last 4 weeks, implied U.S. gasoline demand is up 1% compared to the same period last year.
It's a really strong ethanol production number. Margins are fantastic. Corn is cheap. Ethanol, by comparison, relatively speaking, is slightly higher priced. So the margins are great. This is going to continue for a long time. This is a bright spot of the demand base. It's just we don't have the capacity to improve it a ton. USDA projects that we're going to be close to flat year over year with regard to corn demand via ethanol in the new crop marketing year. And I believe that's probably pretty close to reality.
USDA reported multiple flash sales of soybeans once again on Wednesday. U.S. exporters sold 5 million bushels of soybeans to China for delivery during the 24-25 marketing year. Exporters also sold 4 million bushels of soybeans to unknown destinations for delivery during the 24-25 marketing year.
Again, more frequent sales. We're seeing them like every day. They're just small, minimal amounts. We want to see China really come in and get a little bit more aggressive. Again, U.S. Corn and soybeans are competitive on the export market. We may run into some issues with the river. I think by first week in September, we may be in restrictive territory when it comes to the Mississippi River. They could institute, again, draft or load restrictions, which would be problematic. The last thing we need is any sort of choke point or logistics issue when we're looking at these massive crops and still what appear to be very large old crop supplies as well.
Federal Reserve minutes show that interest rates will likely be cut in September. The July minutes revealed that recent economic data has boosted officials' confidence that inflation is moving steadily toward 2%. If the data remains friendly, rates will most likely be reduced next month. Officials also noted that a rate cut is needed due to concerns over a weakening labor market. On Wednesday, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that non-farm payrolls were overstated from April 2023 through March 2024. Payrolls are expected to be reduced by 818,000, the most since 2009.
So I guess the people who who constantly say that the jobs numbers are fake get to beat their chest and validate themselves. At the same time, Wall Street is littered with the bodies of dead bears because everybody who's been short and calling for recession has just been dead wrong. So yeah, you can be happy about this. I feel like people are rooting for a recession, which is odd to me. Don't bet against the United States over the long haul, guys. What did cattle do yesterday?
Cattle futures were mixed. Feeders were up 35 cents to $1.17 higher. Live cattle were down 97 cents to 75 cents higher. Box beef was mostly unchanged yesterday. Choice ended the day at 315.21. That was up 13 cents. And select ended the day at 301.08. That was up 4 cents.
Outside market's pretty quiet. U.S. dollar's up a little bit. Stocks up a little bit. Bonds are off. Crude oil's up 20 cents. And the November WTI at 71.50. Have a great day, guys. We'll talk to you.